as a child, it was so incredible for me to have a nature experience where I was humbled. And I see here on Whidbey Island with all this beautiful nature, the important work the Land Trust does on bringing that next generation of stewards and connecting them to this important land. I've dedicated my life to working on the issue of connecting children to nature because I've seen an involvement in my own life. As a child who had his own life turned around through an outdoor experience, to working in schools and seeing troubled kids have those experiences that gave them that foundation to become successful. And now as the father of a 4-year-old, I see every day the glint and positivity that that natural experience can give. But beyond that, we are at a tipping point. Because a lot of times you'll hear people say, well, maybe we're going to lose the next generation if we don't connect them to the outdoors. I frankly think we've already lost a generation. There's a generation that hasn't had a bike ride to nowhere or built a treehouse. But at the same time, we now have a Secretary of Interior in Sally Jewell who said that the best classroom is the one without walls, and who's put her legacy about getting that connection to children and families to the outdoors. The Children in Nature Network was founded upon the philosophy of Richard Louv, who's the author of Last Child in the Woods. We believe that every child and every family has a right to be connected to the outdoors. The only way that we can do that is by connecting communities together and working to really evolve common sense, community-based strategies to connect those people on a worldwide network so they have the resources, the evidence, and the connection to make sure that every child and every family has a special place in nature. One of the key things that we found through our research is that every community is different. Every community has a different path in order to connect their community to nature. And one of the things we're really trying to do is highlight the differences between an urban environment, a suburban environment, and a rural environment, and how they go about connecting their children, their families with nature. And one of our key strategies is to connect all of these different voices so people can look at these different strategies and work together to find those different pathways for that connection to nature. Because there isn't one silver bullet. We believe that by working together, we can find collective impact in order to really start to have a cultural shift in which it's an expectation in all of our communities that every child and every family will have that special experience in the outdoors in nature. Nature deficit disorder doesn't really fall under one issue area. What I love about the issue that I work on in connecting children to the outdoors is I don't look at it, and the Children in Nature doesn't look at it, as just an environmental issue, as important as that is, or just an educational issue, or even in many senses a community issue, which you could say is so wide. We look at it as a basic human issue. Because the nice thing about nature is it's a platform for so many young people and families and adults to use that foundational experience to become a leader, whether it is on environmental issues, whether it's in educational issues, but to become more aware and engaged in their community and have a healthier lifestyle.
Hi, I'm Pat Powell, Executive Director of the Whidbey Camano Land Trust. The Land Trust is a nonprofit nature organization based on Whidbey and Camano Islands, and we work with willing landowners, private landowners, to protect some of the most important lands on the two islands.
I think one of the amazing things, Pat, here in Whidbey Island, and just with the issue of connecting kids to the outdoors, is it helps in so many different ways. We've seen kids who've improved their academic scores 27% in science through that connection to the outdoors and outdoor schools. We see a generation that has a 20% rise in obesity, but has gone down 6% over the last 10 years when kids are engaged in outdoor activities. And I also think it's part of our heritage. When you look at Whidbey Island and the beautiful places here on the island, there's a heritage of stewardship. And I think that the connection of children and families to the outdoors can continue that heritage of stewardship going forward. Nature deficit disorder is not a clinically described disorder, but it is interesting now that there are a lot of doctors in Michigan and in DC and actually the American Pediatric Association who's talking about actual park prescriptions being part of something that they give children and families. What nature deficit disorder, as called by Richard Louv, is an alienation of the senses, of not being connected to nature. And you put the disorder on it because there really has been almost a generation already that has not had those experiences that so many of us had when we were children. Whether that was a bike ride to nowhere, whether that was building a treehouse. And every environment is different. We're not just talking about the trips to Mount Rainier or Yosemite National Park. We're talking about your backyard.
You know, I grew up in a family with 6 girls, and we were very poor. What we did every day was go outside. And my mom loved to take us on drives in the country, and we went to the beach and we searched for arrowheads right in our backyards. And, you know, she taught us to just walk out the door and just go for a walk.
So many people haven't had that, which doesn't give the next generation that opportunity to become the stewards and to save the land, which is so, so precious to all of us. In my opinion, looking at the experiences that I've had, I've seen so many young people who maybe are not great in the classroom. Once you get them outside and they start to touch, they start to hear, they start to smell in the outdoors, and you start to see a spark. You start to see that young person who maybe didn't have that confidence start to get that confidence. And that confidence again becomes that foundation and that base. And maybe it is that they want to start to study science through the outdoors, but also maybe it's just confidence which helps them study something else, but it gives them that base. And I've seen in my experience so many children, from urban kids in LA, the west side of Chicago, the South Bronx, to rural kids in Homer, Alaska, who have used that base experience to become leaders in their community. Being here on Whidbey Island over the last 48 hours, I've been amazed at how wondrous nature is. But one of the most interesting things in my travels and working for the Children in Nature Network is it really can connect people and different strategies, because so many communities, regardless of where they are based, are dealing with the same issues. And only by connecting those communities can we truly start to have those common sense community-based solutions to really culturally shift, so there is that expectation that every child and every family should have an outdoor experience.
We're on one earth. We're all connected by land and water. And the future of humans depends on keeping our world healthy and vital. We need the water and the clean air. And we need the wildlife, and we need the ferns and the big trees. And I've been doing this 30 years to protect the best places. And when I see kids outside, and I don't care if they're looking at non-native slugs and enjoying it or skipping in the bushes, I hope to see the children unplug. And when I was out at Camp Casey yesterday, and there were, you know, hundreds of children outside, and none of them had their cell phones. They weren't connected to computers. They were chasing soccer balls. They were rolling down the hills. They were chasing frisbee. They were down on the beach. That's why I do this.
To me, this is a human issue. It's a basic fundamental right that all of us have. And especially here in a beautiful place like Whidbey Island, I see this as a community that become a model for other communities around the country and even the world to look at, with the great work of the Land Trust and so many different organizations that are working together to make that collective impact, to give every single child and every family that opportunity to experience nature in their own backyard.